Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, March 26, 2025 Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have City Attorney David Benton with us to explain public comment.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the subcommittee members to listen to the comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on matters presented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. And we have Elsie Duarte with us today for interpretation, so I'd like her to take a moment to introduce herself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Buenos días, mi nombre es Elsie Duarte. Estaré interpretándoles a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana durante esta sesión de desarrollo económico y vivienda. Como parte de un nuevo formato de interpretación, al momento de hacer su comentario ya no será necesario hacer pausas. Esto significa que usted podrá hablar libremente sin interrupciones durante el tiempo disponible. Sus comentarios serán interpretados al momento que usted termine de hablar. Gracias. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Elsie. And our first item on the agenda is call to public. I do believe we have a virtual speaker, Mandy. Is Mandy with us? Okay, we don't have Mandy. Then in person, we have Juniper Bradford. Juniper? All right, maybe we'll come back to them at the end of the meeting. Okay. Okay. Eric, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Mahaffey? Okay, so we'll try again at the end of the meeting then for those folks. All right. Approval of the minutes. Do you have a motion? You got it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing
Aye.
none, the motion passes unanimously. Items 2 through 5 are on consent. Does anybody need to have any of those pulled? Otherwise, I would take a motion for approval for items 2 through 5.
I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Items 6 and 7 are for information only. Does anybody have any questions on either of those items? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilwoman Stark.
Very quickly, and I think under Head Start, if we could, in the next report that we get, if we could get some information on how how they may be impacted by the federal government starting to shut down some of the programs, I think that would be helpful. If they could just add that as the next time it comes to us as an information only.
Yes, ma'am. We will have them add to their next report the impact of federal government actions. Thank you, Councilwoman
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we will move then to item 8, the Phoenix Bioscience Core update. And joining us for this item will be Christine Mackey and Claudia Whitehead from the Community and Economic Development Department.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having us here today to talk about all the great things happening on the Phoenix Bioscience Core. With me today, Claudia Whitehead has oversight of our economic development strategy over all things biosciences and healthcare. So as you know, the city did acquire the PBC, as we like to call it, Phoenix Bioscience Core, the PBC through multiple land acquisitions beginning in the 1980s and moving into the 1990s, which have since created a really strong magnet for biosciences and healthcare delivery type options. A quick funny background story. Ms. Whitehead will go into great detail, but a quick funny background story for the audience and for Subcommittee, this was land that was actually acquired to build the Cardinals Stadium. At that time, all 4 sports were going to be in downtown Phoenix, and the city had assembled all of this land to be the Cardinal Stadium. Of course, as everyone knows, the outcome, we lost to Glendale, and really smart people had to get together, whether it was with the Flynn Foundation, with the city, with the county, with the state, and the universities to determine what were we going to do with 30 acres here in downtown Phoenix. And so I do, Mr. Bidwell, I do like to tease him every once in a while about not selecting downtown Phoenix as their location. It goes in more depth than that, but I won't bore you with that today. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Whitehead to go on a review of not only the activities that are happening on the Phoenix Bioscience Core, but what we've seen from those city investments. Claudia?
Thank you, Chris, and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Really excited to be here with you today to talk about the Phoenix Bioscience Core and all of the great activities that are happening on the PBC. And just want to share with you real quick, quick overview of what is happening throughout the city of Phoenix, as bioscience and healthcare is a prime focus for the mayor and city council. And so we have 5 major biohealth hubs in the city. The first one we like to talk about is the Phoenix Cotton Center, which is out near the airport, with large lab and bioscience and manufacturing companies that are located at the Phoenix Cotton Center. Of course, the Phoenix Bioscience Core campus, which is in downtown, which we'll go into a lot further detail in just a moment. The Phoenix Medical Corridor and Midtown, where we have many of our large healthcare systems alongside of their research institutes and Creighton University and others that are located there. Then to the north, we have the Mayo Clinic and Discovery Oasis, along with the ASU Health Future Center. And then the latest one, where we'll see many science and tech companies locating out in Halo Vista around the TSMC campus. So we're really excited about that, that future development within the city. And then, of course, there's many other companies and innovations happening throughout the areas of Phoenix, but these are major biohealth hubs as we're talking with companies to locate here in Phoenix so that they can see the depth and breadth of what is happening within Phoenix. And as Chris had talked about, the city back in the early, in the 80s and 90s had acquired property in downtown Phoenix, and we like to jokingly say that this is the only time that the city of Phoenix likes to brag about losing, because we think that we won big time with the impact of the PBC on the campus. And so what we got to do is reimagine what that campus could be and how it could impact the future of health and research. And so the entire community rallied around bringing Dr. Jeffrey Trent, who at the time was leading the NIH's efforts to translate the human genome. And he was leaving NIH at the time to form the Translational Genomics Research Institute, TGen, that is now also part of City of Hope. And so Dr. Trent will go into a little bit more detail about the major impact that TGen has had on the entire community, but it was like really a great opportunity to really anchor the PBC with this amazing research institute that really leads in precision medicine and personalized medicine. And today, this is a representation of the amazing organizations and community leaders and innovators that are on the PBC within our thriving downtown ecosystem. So there's this great community for these companies to be surrounded by the great sports, entertainment, restaurants, housing opportunities, parks, et cetera, and then just being located just 10 minutes away from the airport. So it offers these companies and the easy access to the international destinations, as many of these companies are also having global impact and global connections throughout the world. And then, of course, we have all three of our major universities, public universities, ASU, U of A, and NAU on the campus, alongside of NIDDK, which is part of the NIH, and many others. And so I'll go into a little bit more detail about some of these that are happening on the campus in just a moment. But it's just amazing to see what started with TGen and to see these organizations now that are on the campus, and there's many others that that we need to update this illustration to showcase others that have joined as well. And just to give you a quick overview of on the 30 acres, so there's a research, academic, clinical, and private facilities that are located on the PBC. There is approximately 2 million square feet that is built on the campus. At build out, we estimate it to be 6 million plus square feet. There's been more than $1 billion of capital investment in all of the buildings on the campus. There's 29 plus university colleges and research centers on the campus. And within 2 miles, anybody that's located on the PBC has access to more than 20 institutes of research excellence. So within that 2-mile radius, they can have so many great collaborators to advance their innovations and their science. And on the PBC, it is also has been a great place for hosting public events and education. One of those is regularly attended on Thursday evenings, where we have the Venture Cafe. And so we see more than 150 people come to the PBC every Thursday from 5 to 7 for great programming. And this provides the opportunity to highlight the innovation that's happening throughout the community. There's also a great what's called a researcher and artist program. And so this artist and researcher program also was supported through the City of Phoenix through the Culture and Arts program. So this is where speed dating happens between an artist and a researcher, and so they get together and they work for 6 months on a piece to interpret what the researcher is working on. And so then people can really see a different representation of what that research is to have a better understanding. And right now in Phoenix City Hall in the gallery, there are some of the earlier works from early cohorts that are on display in Phoenix City Hall in the gallery. The economic impact of what is happening on the PBC. So TGen, with the City of Phoenix, we invested $58 million to build the building for TGen. And in the year 2020 and 2020 alone, estimated that TGen had $658 million of economic impact.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I think one of the other things as we look at TGen, and we lovingly call that our Adam of Adam and Eve, it was the initial company on the PBC. When we look at that, one of those things that is not only is the economic impact unbelievably exciting as we look at that just on an annual basis, but TGen has spun 26 companies out of the work that it does that are, for the most part, here in the city of Phoenix and continue to drive jobs in that area.
And we're really fortunate to have their leadership and their continued advancement of innovations in Phoenix, because it's not only that economic impact, but it's also the health impact onto the community. And like Dr. Jeffrey Trent likes to say, that local research benefits local patients. And so many of our residents are benefiting by that research that is happening here through TGen. So. And then when we look at the economic impact of the Phoenix Bioscience Core campus, it is estimated that in 2025, $3.1 billion in economic impact on our community. And so it's just amazing to see the great seed that has been planted in innovation in our core and in the heart of downtown, because of leadership by the City Council. So it's really, really exciting to see this large growth.
A couple of really exciting programs and new institutes are coming into downtown. And so just a couple of weeks ago, we had the groundbreaking for the ASU Health Headquarters, which is going to be on the PBC. So this is going to be 200,000 square feet with a capital investment of $230 million. It will have a new School of Medicine and Advanced Medical Engineering. This is really an unprecedented way that the ASU is organizing their medical school to really integrate engineering, because so much of the biomedical technologies now are inclusive of engineering to be able to advance those innovations. Also, the School of Technology for Public Health, the Edson College of Nursing and Health Innovation in downtown, the College of Health Solutions, and the Medical Masters Institute. So we're really excited to see this new form of education and really fostering the growth of new talent within Phoenix. And yeah, really exciting to see another medical school. So the PBC is now going to be home to 2 medical schools on its campus, right in the heart of downtown. And the Health Observatory at ASU. And this Health Observatory is already operational, and that is in the 850 PBC building. And so they are really looking at the public health and really looking at infectious disease and monitoring out in the health ecosystem. And medical education and research that's on the PBC, of course, we just talked about ASU with their new medical school. Northern Arizona University has their public health programs and physical therapy. University of Arizona has a number of colleges, including the College of Medicine Phoenix and the College of Pharmacy. Maricopa Community Colleges is also on the campus with the Center for Entrepreneurial Innovation. Creighton University also works very closely with all of these institutions. And then, of course, it's really unique. We have the Phoenix Union Bioscience High School. So really looking at those earlier stages of the talent development and really having that fostering of the future of talent in medical education and research happening right on the campus. On the PBC is also in Connect Labs by Wexford in the 850 PBC building. And this is an accelerator for scale in place for those companies that are growing. So we want to make sure that we are helping to support the entrepreneurs and those innovators developing these novel technologies for the benefit of health. And this is an opportunity for them these entrepreneurs and new companies to co-locate next to academic, corporate, and early stage bio companies. And so we've seen just recently, NIDDK is expanding into the 7th floor of the 850 PBC. And so these companies are going to have the access to really having that close relationships of potential collaborations with them. We've also seen Honor Health, they have the new translational center that has opened in the Connect Labs. And so it's really exciting for these companies to have this critical mass just within one location in the PBC. Because many times they foster these collaborations and opportunities for, colliding and having these ideas, just in the lunchroom and those common spaces. So it's really great opportunity. We've seen a couple of companies just spontaneously get together and advancing their technologies and co-developing those together within that space. There's also the Bioscience Growth Accelerator Program. This offers a soft landing program for 3 months. So for companies that are looking at coming into Phoenix, but they just really are not sure how it would be if they're going to be supported within the ecosystem. So this soft landing program provides them 3 months within the Connect Labs with complimentary bench and workstation. And it gives them access to core facilities, core equipment, concierge services, and it has the immediate immersion into the Phoenix Bio ecosystem, being a part of the Phoenix Bioscience Core Campus. And then also, one of the things that we've heard very much from our companies is the workforce training. And so the Center for Entrepreneurial Innovation, which is part of the Maricopa Community College system and Gateway Community College, they have a lab within the 850 PBC building where they can do customized training for doing lab tech trainings and that to help support our companies, not only on the PBC, but throughout the entire community. And one of the things that they have been working on is working in close collaboration with Phoenix Bioscience High School so that those high schoolers can graduate being trained in lab tech, so they'll have certification. So when they go on to college, they can already be qualified to work in labs as they go onto the college campus. So it's really good to build this qualified talent and hopefully get them anchored to Phoenix so that if they go off to college outside of Phoenix, that we want to make sure that they know that there's opportunities here in Phoenix. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm going to just start with a couple. If I recall correctly, you said it was about 30 acres that we started with. About how much of that does Phoenix still own?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, currently Phoenix still owns all of the land that is on the PBC. Our agreements with our university partners are a land lease for up to 30 years, and they pay us a land lease during the 30 years. At the end of the 30 years, if they're still using those buildings, they automatically transfer to those universities. It was Phoenix's way of encouraging that those universities would stay in place and be operational as opposed to just transferring the land to them at the initial onset.
And has Phoenix invested any money into those buildings or programs as they've built up?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, in the initial acquisition of the land and the 3 historic high school buildings that are on the campus today that house the University of Arizona's medical school, we were approximately $90 million in the acquisition of those land sites in those 3 buildings during the 1980s and 1990s as we moved forward. And then as you look at other buildings that we've invested in, we have used our funding through our Downtown Reinvestment Fund to be able to help partner with our university partnerships to invest in those buildings as well. We also took out an RFP. Our universities were challenged with their parking. We took out an RFP on our land site, and private sector built the Phoenix Bioscience Core Garage. And so that is another one that is money that the city's invested in through its land and through other things.
So we own the land, but if we have a long-term lease with the universities, then we'll go back to the universities if they're still using them at 30 years.
That's correct.
Are there any other companies that they have the same kind of lease?
Madam Chair, the one company that is not through a university would be our initial company, TGen. And so we had a long-term land lease with TGen. The city spent $58 million to build the building initially, which 2004 is when that building started construction. TGen's been the tenant in there since. In 2017, we did come forward to City Council to get City Council's authorization to sell that building should they want to buy it in the future to TGen in the City of Hope. So the private sector that we have on the campus today is TGen, that those investments were made in as well. Then the partnership with Arizona State University and Wexford, that is a partnership with the City of Phoenix and Wexford and Arizona State University.
Excellent. Questions? Councilman Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question I have more than anything else deals with what was in the news recently with the University of Arizona pausing or halting its construction. I think it was $300 million on their portion of this bio campus. Do we have any additional information on where that's going, or is there a possibility we may see some other university or other programs that are tied to federal funding be impacted by this? Do we have anything just yet?
Madam Chair, Councilman Robinson, you did read in the newspaper last week about the Center for Advanced Molecular Immunological Therapies pausing their building. They are, as the University of Arizona is looking at moving the building forward and determining now again what happens in the building, they are heavily focused on what's going on at the federal level and what's happening with university grants and federal research grants and medical grants that most of our universities have relied upon since for decades and decades and decades. So we are I know the mayor has had a conversation with the president of the university, and we're working diligently to come to a conclusion where the project could get back under construction again. It is a project, to Vice Mayor's question, it is a project that you did authorize a significant investment in that building at free rent for the 30-year period, and then we also are 1.5 million out of the city's economic development downtown reinvestment fund for a 10-year period of time. So we have significant investments in that building. So it is, and we're looking at other universities and other programs across the state, not just university programs, but our researchers and others, whether it's federal researchers or others, and they are all, what's the word I'm looking for? They have great trepidation as to how they're going to be able to move forward in this uncertain time. To answer your question very directly, we could see more of this.
All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Chair. My question actually was partially asked by Councilman Robinson, but I had a couple of follow-up questions regarding what we're seeing is to be one of the impacts of the halt on federal funding. We have, as a result of a really good strategic plan when it comes to the biosciences, we have become, we lead in bioscience and bioscience and life science job growth, and we have become a destination for research and healthcare innovation. We have an understanding, or we can anticipate, that there may be some impact to some of our academic institutions, but we also have quite a number of private institutions or private companies that also partake or use our services here at the Bioscience Core. Do we have any indication of any potential direction or concerns we will be seeing with those private companies?
Madam Chair, Councilman Hodge Washington, I'll answer a little bit and then I'll turn it over to our expert, Ms. Whitehead, to answer much more thoroughly than I can. The good news is on the private sector side is the work that this council has done has created Phoenix as such a destination location. Ms. Whitehead will share with you those statistic numbers that you so thoughtfully shared at Bio International when you were helping us run the booth this last year. Private sector investments are looking for placements in Phoenix companies now because of the work that this council's done to really showcase Phoenix as the place for biosciences growth. But we're still seeing those private companies challenged because they're also reliant on federal grants or federal research or research that's happening that is led by the universities that then feeds into private companies. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Whitehead to more thoroughly answer your question.
Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee and Councilwoman Hodge Washington, yes, there is there's great news that is out there within our community as far as the growth of the biosciences, and with the recent announcement by Mayo Clinic, actually with almost a $2 billion expansion on their campus. And I think that with those types of announcements and that we have not seen any lessening of momentum, of interest, of companies looking at Phoenix. It's actually, I dare say, actually increased because people are recognizing the opportunities that are here in Phoenix. And so we even have had one of our earlier stage companies have been working with a company out of Australia to enter the market. And so there has been that, but that's not to say that especially our earlier stage companies that are dependent on more of the grant fundings, they have been in holding patterns and on some of their advancements of their technologies, but they're hopeful, and they're also looking at how they can look to others to partner to help support their research. And so I think that we're still continuing to see so much investment within the city and interest from other companies. And so we have a couple of large delegations, foreign delegations, that will be visiting Phoenix in the next couple of months leading up to the Big Bio International Convention. And so I think that we'll continue to see that interest. I have not had any companies like call in desperation asking for, you know, additional connections for resources. So we're really, you know, knock on wood, and really hoping that for the best as people are recognizing what innovation is happening and what kind of a supportive ecosystem that we have, especially through your leadership here on the subcommittee and the entire council. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I could ask Claudia to run just quickly through some numbers of over the last few years with your leadership and Claudia's hard work and our partners' hard work that we've seen here in Phoenix. How about the CapEx square foot and jobs?
Sure.
And this does not include the $2 billion announcement with Mayo on our B-Day a few weeks ago.
Yes. So since 2019, there's more than $4.7 billion that have been invested in primary facilities in more than 6.5 million square feet here in Phoenix. And so that's created more than 11,000 really high quality jobs for our community. And and then as Chris had said, that does not include the $2 billion yet. So we're really, really fortunate to see this growth and really benefiting the entire community on the health side and also on the economic side.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you both, Chris, as well, for that explanation. I think many times the news focuses on the negatives, and I just wanted to give us an opportunity to say that despite the challenges that we are experiencing currently, that although our institutions, there are still private opportunities still here and still interest in moving forward the bioscience core. So thank you for all that you do to move the bioscience strategy forward and continue to ensure that research and treatment is our priority here in the city of Phoenix, and we show our priorities by our investments, and I think this is one of our best investments, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you both for this incredible presentation. I can't say enough for all the hard work that your department and the other leaders in the city of Phoenix have done to really put Phoenix on the map in this area. So thank you again for today's presentation. We will move to item 9, consideration of a possible shopping cart restrictive device ordinance. For that, we will have Spencer Self and Ana Maria Ortega. Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I am once again joined by Deputy Director Ana Maria Ortega, and we're here to bring back a conversation that we started in October about strategies to reduce the number of shopping carts collected from our abandoned shopping cart retrieval program. As we reported last time, we've seen an increase in the number of abandoned shopping carts reported and retrieved, nearly tripling from around 3,000 in fiscal year 18-19 to more than 9,000 in fiscal year 21-22, before coming down a bit over the last couple of years. However, last fiscal year was still more than twice as high as the number 5 years ago. In October, we discussed the possibility of implementing a new city ordinance that would require locking wheel mechanisms for all large retail stores. You asked us to further engage the retailers and gather more data to provide better context for the conversation. And today, we will give you an update on what we found and a revised potential new city ordinance framework for your consideration. I will now turn the presentation over to Ana Maria to begin the update.
Thank you, Spencer. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, since October, we've held meetings with a variety of retail associations, including the Arizona Food Marketing Alliance, Arizona Retail Association, and Arizona Lobbying, to discuss what data they could provide and hear their feedback on the possible new ordinance. In particular, we asked for data on efficacy of well-maintained locking wheel mechanisms, Unfortunately, while they did provide some information, such as a partial list of stores using locking wheel mechanisms, they did not have data on the efficacy of their systems nor the maintenance of their systems. However, they did share concerns about taking a single solution approach to the problem and their appreciation for having an opportunity for an open dialogue about potential solutions, including a potential new ordinance. While we were not able to get specific data on the efficacy of locking wheel mechanisms, we did dig into our own data to gather additional insight. Last year, we collected from over 60 retailers who have over 460 stores in Phoenix. The average number of abandoned shopping carts collected per store is 16.3, which actually seems very high to us, but it made more sense that the median number of carts was just 4. That means the data is heavily skewed by the highest offenders. In fact, we only have 12 retailers that exceed 20 carts collected during the year, and those retailers represent 5,752, or 74% of the total carts collected. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So just to show you what the data looks like, here's a graph showing the distribution across retailers. And because I know the text is too small to read, here are the top retailers whose stores represent the 74% of carts we collected. The number one on average cart per store was surprisingly Winco Foods. We collected a total of 262 carts for the one Winco store in Phoenix. The second highest was Walmart with an average of 131 carts per store.
I apologize. Did you just say 131 carts per store for Walmart?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we really think that that data is key to what the city's trying to accomplish with the ordinance we've been discussing. We know the majority of retailers result in very few carts collected from our abandoned shopping cart retrieval program, while others have substantially more. With that, I'd like to provide an updated framework for the subcommittee's consideration that I think would better fit our ordinance objective. Similar to what we discussed in October, we would require all retailers that provide shopping carts to their customers to register with the city, each individual store. Any retail stores with delinquent fees from our abandoned shopping cart retrieval program would be denied until they became current. They would be required to provide information to ensure we are billing the appropriate entity, and that we would know where to send the notices of noncompliance. For that reason, we would require annual renewals to keep the information evergreen. We would then require all large retail stores with over 50,000 square feet of retail space to have locking wheel mechanisms. However, recognizing that a single solution does not necessarily fit all, we are recommending offering an alternative that would require a shopping cart compliance plan made up of 2 sections. The first would be how they intend to prevent the removal of shopping carts from their retail premises, and the second is how they will ensure timely return of shopping carts that do end up beyond their store bounds. At a minimum, if they do not have a locking wheel system, they would be required to have a shopping cart retrieval contract. But what we really wanted to focus on with this ordinance is an iterative approach that allows retailers broad discretion but still holds them accountable. We would do this through 6-month reviews. If we collect more than 10 carts during the 6-month review, the retailer would be required to implement a shopping cart compliance plan if they don't already have one. So those would be the small retailers, smaller than 50,000 square feet, or large retailers who do implement locking wheel mechanisms, but still we're collecting from them. Or if they do not have a plan, if they do have a plan, then they would need to submit a revised plan for review that would include enhancements to address the issue. Ultimately, they would be given 3 bites at the apple over a 3-year period. If they continue to exceed the 10 shopping cart threshold within that 3-year period, they would be required to follow a mandatory minimum plan. And that mandatory minimum plan would include all the items on the screen, locking wheel mechanisms, daily shopping cart retrieval contracts, GPS tracking systems to ensure that they're able to find the carts that do go outside of their store, and a locking system for carts when the store is not open to ensure that they're not walking away after hours. in addition to anything else that they may include beyond the mandatory minimum. Ultimately, this ordinance would be focused on the registration and compliance with the registration. Violations would result from a failure of the retailers to register or to maintain their registration. And if they failed to comply with their submitted plan, their registration would be subject to revocation. As with other city ordinances NSD enforces, we would have latitude for the frequency of the citations, which could be as frequent, just like all of our other codes, as each day the violation exists. Now, this item is agendized as discussion and possible action, but similar to our presentation in October, we're really seeking direction on how you would like us to move forward. And so that could be a vote of the subcommittee for us to move forward with drafting an ordinance that contains these requirements or others, or you could provide us more direction at what you'd like to see for us to come back and discuss this further. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or take any direction.
Thank you very much, Spencer. So we do have one person from the public to comment on this, Lisa Bednar, if you'd like to join us, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Madam Chair and subcommittee members, my name is Lisa Bednar. I am the president of the Arizona Food Marketing Alliance, and AFMA is a state trade organization that represents Arizona grocery and convenience retailers along with their supplier partners. And we wanted to state our appreciation for allowing us to be part of these discussions with Neighborhood Services as a stakeholder. And we look forward to working together on solutions to bring stolen and abandoned carts back to their owners. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming down today. Councilwoman Stark, you have a question?
Yes, so just maybe I'm trying to summarize, but maybe it's a question. So the ordinance would propose that retailers with 50,000 square feet or greater would have to have a locking wheel unless they can provide an alternative to the locking wheel. For example, they might come to us and say, we have a plan which would use GPS, or we have a plan to use whatever. And so you are giving some flexibility to the retailers, correct?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Stark, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so then if their alternative plan doesn't work, then you would bring them back to the table and say, okay, you're going to have to do this. So you are, again, giving them flexibility, but also if it's not working, then they're going to have to come up back to what we would require generally, which would be the locking wheel, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. I quite frankly like being able to give the retailers some flexibility, but still holding them accountable. So I think we're moving in the right direction, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Questions? Councilwoman Hodge-Washington.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Stealth. Hopefully you're grateful you didn't have to come from downstairs today for me, so thank you. I guess I have a couple of questions as to the slide, what is it, slide number 5. If I counted that correctly, yes. If I counted that correctly, there are 49, let's call them retailers or retailers that have, I guess, is it 0 or close to 0 carts that we retrieve? Or?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, yes, we have, and this is an average per store. So if they have multiple stores and we've collected very few carts, the average number is less than 1. So for instance, Ace Hardware, it was an average of 0.1. 5 Below was 0.3. But yes, the vast majority, in fact, once you get below the 20 per store on average, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 that are above 10.
Yeah, my point was going to be more so, it seems like our true issue is a smaller percentage. It's probably 15 to 20% of the stores or the retailers is where we truly have our problem, correct? And I was just curious also, I was also curious as to what would we classify our larger retailers to address the concern about requiring the lock-and wheel mechanism?
Madam Chair, I apologize. The question is, how would we?
What is a threshold? I want to make sure I understand the threshold. I wrote 50,000 square feet. So it's the size of the average store or their collective stores. I'm just trying to understand that a little clearer.
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, yes, thank you. It would be the individual store. So each store would have to comply with this requirement, not at the retailer level. And that would give further discretion per store that they could choose different models that work for them. We certainly found across, Walmart's, for instance, there's a big disparity in the number of carts that are collected by our program versus others, so they could customize.
Okay, and just want to clarify, in terms of creating the data for that chart that I just saw, an abandoned cart was, I presume, was determined based on a complaint of some sort driven by the community, and we left a notice. Can you just explain what is meant by abandoned here?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, that is a great question. And if anyone's watching from home, I would encourage them to report any abandoned shopping carts that they see, either through My Phoenix 311 at phoenix.gov/myphx311, or by giving us a call at 602-534-4444. And then we will work with our contractor to go out and collect that cart. So yes, the vast majority of carts are reported by the community. We do have a couple of areas that we know are hot spots that we do a little more proactive work, and that includes areas like our community safety plan and other kind of hot spots that we've identified.
Okay. I'm jumping around here, and follow me, I'm gonna get here eventually. On this, when we talked about the stakeholder meetings with the retailer representative, they explained that there were some concerns about a single solution approach, and I presume that was more focused on requiring but just an overarching, having a track or a mechanism on each shopping cart regardless of the size of the retailer. Is that fair?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, yes. Our primary conversation was initially about the locking wheel mechanisms. We did discuss GPS trackers quite a bit. It is fairly new in the market, so there are quite a few retailers who are exploring that and are starting to use it. And there's a lot of promising data, or at least they've told us that there's a lot of promising data. But they were concerned even about having that as an initial requirement, just because there's still a lot of question about its long-term efficacy.
Okay, thank you. And of the retailers, can you tell us what percentage of the retailers already have some level of contract for shopping cart retrieval? Or?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, the vast majority. I can't give you a specific number because we are currently, because we don't have the registry at this point, it's not a requirement for them to submit those to us, so we don't have complete knowledge. But we do know that the vast majority of the shopping carts that we collect through our program are for retailers who have their own shopping cart collection contract.
Even, I don't want to call them those that are on the right side of the chart?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Hodge-Washington, yes,
Okay.
The majority, but not necessarily all. So for instance, I am not aware that if Winco has their own. I do know that Targets and Walmarts do. I know for Home Depot, it may depend on the store. So the vast majority, yes.
Okay. So the reason I ask that question is if they already have a contract, doesn't that kind of infer they already have a plan? And if they already have a plan, yet we're still seeing this level of activity by, certain retailers, are there certain components that probably should be required in the plan? Or to ensure that we don't have a plan on paper that complies with our ordinance, but its enforcement or its effectiveness is not what we desire to see.
Madam Chair and Councilwoman Hodge Washington, yeah, and that's a great point. What we are contemplating is the plan that they submit is subject to review, and so we would have an initial conversation with them. If their plan is to just do what they've been doing and it has not been successful, that would be something that we would want to have them improve that plan even right from the get-go. However, really the beauty of this plan is that review component. So, okay, you submit a plan and it's not a great plan and it's largely just something for aesthetics. Within 6 months, we'll know whether or not that's working, and then they'll have to make improvements. And really, that if they are one of our worst offenders and they don't try to get that under control, within a year and a half, they'll be at our mandatory minimum plan, and they'll have to comply with all of the requirements.
Okay, that's helpful to understand that there, for those that are listening, there would be some requirements that would be it's not just a submission of a plan, but there are requirements that would be included or required, and there would be an enforcement mechanism. Well, I think that addresses the majority of my concerns. There's some more, of course, the devil's are in the details of this, so I appreciate the work that's been done on this thus far. I am in favor of us moving forward with an ordinance that addresses some of these issues, especially since we've now had more stakeholder input into the process. So thank you for your work on this. That is it, Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hodge Washington. Appreciate it. I related to the Councilwoman's last question about requirements and improving plans. I know that I spoke to one of the retailers, and I think one of the things we found out during that discussion is that they go out to pick up carts kind of like when they're called or notified, as opposed to having a plan, which you had referred to for some other retailers where they go out once or twice a week, or like they do for the city. So that could be another aspect, and how to make a plan improvement as well. Can you talk about the shopping cart contractors or the businesses that are out there that collect these, and how does the city go about selecting theirs, and is there a requirement for our retailers to have a specific company?
Madam Chair, that's a great question. And in fact, if you had asked that question 3 years ago, or even probably a couple of years ago, our answer would have been there's really only one game in town. And that is the contractor we contract with and the vast majority of the retail stores. Over the last year or so, we have seen some new players move into that space. I believe Walmart brought in one of their national vendors into Arizona, and they're not solely for Walmart, so they're picking up some of the retailers as well. And so we do have more competition. In our last contract procurement, it was sole source because there was only one game in town. So for us, that opens up more flexibility that we could do a procurement and see what other options are available. Also, the retailer community, I would say, has always been a pretty tight community. I mean, it's one of the benefits of, working with the lobbyists and the retail associations that are very quickly able to tap into us and have a good dialogue. And so having that one store, that one contractor was great in terms of everyone was on the same page and sort of understanding how it works. I think as we have more vendors enter that space, it creates a new dialogue, and for us, additional challenges. So for instance, we historically charged only for shopping carts that we returned where the retail store did not have a contract, a cart retrieval contract. Well, it was easy to know who had one and who didn't because the person collecting them for us had their contracts. More recently this fall, the City Council approved billing at a discounted rate for those who have a shopping cart retrieval vendor. And so as we began to implement that, we discovered some of these intricacies where now we need something like a registry. So we've altered our process so they contact us and let us know if they have a contract, and then have the opportunity to provide that to us. The ordinance that we are proposing moving forward would codify all of that as part of it as well.
Thank you. And then as another point of discussion that came up with one of the retailers was that right, it would be nice if you're on the business side, and I've been on that side before, to have a registration at the organization level. And so can you explain why it is important to have it at the store level versus the organization level?
Madam Chair, and so there would be an opportunity similar to our vacant property registry where one, at the organization level, they could register multiple properties. But what's important about each store being registered is that we need specific information about that store, including who to communicate with. For the retailers, they organize their businesses in a variety of different ways. Sometimes the store manager is a great person to be in contact with. Often, you really need notices sent to the corporate side. All of that would be captured within the registry. Our intent would be to make it as simple as possible. We're not looking to create a huge bureaucratic mess to solve a simple, to come to a simple solution. It would really be to work with them and make it as easy as possible for us to get the information we need.
Wonderful. I appreciate all the work that you have done. This has been a little bit of a project for me since I became a councilwoman 4 years ago, so I'm excited to see us getting closer to the finish line. I would encourage you, as you said you already have done in a different aspect of NSD, is that we do try to make it as easy as possible and not create too much of an administrative burden on our retailers in that registration process. I know you'll be conscientious of that while still making sure they can have nuanced plans for each of their stores, because as you found in your research, it's very different among stores depending on a variety of factors. So I appreciate that we're going to have that. You guys have done a lot of work and talked to a lot of stakeholders. So thank you for all of that. With that, I would accept a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 With that, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for your work. We did get her. Item 10 is the Spark Area 2 land acquisition, and we will have Christine Mackey, Community and Economic Development Director, join us, as well as Thomas Sawyer, the Economic Development Program Manager. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having us back again this morning. We are here today as part of our Spark Area land acquisition. So just by way of quick background, the Spark Area was designed through a community-long process, a 2-year-long community process in the aviation land reuse area that allows kind of guidance as to how some of these areas can undergo redevelopment and to be transferred out of city ownership into and sold into other private sector ownership to be developed as the community wanted them to be so. The council and our citizens of Phoenix very thoughtfully did provide us some funding during the bond process in 2023 that allows us to acquire additional sites, that makes the sites that we own contiguous, that provides for opportunity for the projects to be developed in the way the community visioned. Madam Chair, I'm going to be turning it over to Thomas Sawyer to walk you through things I've just told you, but also the 3 land sites that staff would recommend that the subcommittee consider for acquisition today. Thomas?
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow subcommittee members. The land reuse strategy planning area is west of Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport and is generally defined by Washington Street to the north, 24th Street and 16th Street to the east, University Drive to the south, and 7th Street to the west, as shown here. And within this area, the Aviation Department owns land scattered throughout, shown by light blue boxes. This noise land was acquired under the airport's Community Noise Reduction Program from 1999 till 2016. And the airport's land reuse strategy was developed in 2017 to address the reuse and redevelopment of these fragmented city-owned parcels. From the land reuse area came Spark areas. These are areas where the city-owned parcels are enough for a large contiguous potential development site, as shown here. In 2023, the city secured $2.5 million in general obligation bonds over 5 years, and this Spark Area 2 land acquisition project is intended to fund the acquisition of private parcels as they become available to fill in the ownership gaps and to facilitate future redevelopment efforts in this area. This Spark Area 2 was city-owned parcels in blue and privately owned parcels in gold. The property to be acquired is strategically located within this Spark Area 2, shown here by the color purple. The property consists of 3 vacant parcels and is approximately 19,800 square feet, owned by Bagpiper Investments, LLC. The owner has agreed to voluntarily sell the property to the city. The acquisition process will be in compliance with AR 395 regarding environmental due diligence for the real estate acquisition, and the purchase price has been determined by an appraisal at $495,000, and this has been accepted by the seller. The purchase agreement will contain terms and conditions deemed necessary and or appropriate, and as mentioned, funding is already secured within the City Go Bond program. And with this acquisition, the city continues to fill in ownership gaps for potential future redevelopment in this area. And with that, I'll pass it back to Chris.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I did neglect at the opening to let you know that Aviation Director Chad Makowski is here in the audience in case you have any aviation or airport questions of our great city department partner. So with that, staff does recommend the subcommittee move to the City Council approval to move forward with acquisition of the 3 parcels identified here in Mr. Sawyer's presentation. And Madam Chair, with that, we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions, members? I would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Yes, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, what? I'm sorry.
I just want to render a comment.
Yes, we have a comment from Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I am very excited to see this move forward, as this was a community-driven initiative. And it's as you mentioned, it was being funded by some of our bond initiatives, as well as a really good tool to help us move in the continued revitalization of that area. So I'm just excited to see it move forward. Thank you.
Wonderful. Aye.
Aye.
With that, we have a unanimous vote, and the motion passes. Thank you both, and we will now move on to item 11, the aviation noise land disposal located north of Interstate 17.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, now we're going to flip to the opposite side of the aviation land reuse area, where in the Spark Area 2, we're working on land acquisitions to create contiguous parcels through the community, the years-long community process that we went through. The land south of I-17, and then on the north side of I-17, just along the I-17, actually mating up to I-17, was land that the community did agree that was best fitted for continuation of industrial development and jobs generating development. So those parcels have been approved, and Mr. Sawyer will walk you through this today, have been approved through the FAA for disposal of these particular properties. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Sawyer to walk you through the process that we do recommend moving forward with for land disposal south of I-17. Mr. Sawyer?
Thank you, Chris. And again, good morning, Madam Chair and fellow subcommittee members. As previously discussed, the land reuse strategy planning area is west of Phoenix International Airport, and within this area, the Aviation Department owns 782 parcels of noise land scattered throughout, shown here by the colored boxes. In December 2022, Aviation received approval from the FAA to dispose or redevelop 427 parcels of the aviation noise land. This was the largest 163 determination in FAA history, and these parcels are specifically identified within blocks A through J shown here. The determination also provided guidance on sale conditions for disposal of the noise land. In close coordination with aviation, CED is charged with leading the execution of the land reuse strategy to ensure land disposal efforts align with the community goals while ensuring compliance and compatibility with airport operations. Therefore, today, Aviation and CED is seeking your recommendation to dispose of aviation noise land in areas F, G, H, I, and J of the FAA's 163 determination. These areas are predominantly along I-17 and 16th Street and University Drive. Blocks H, I, and J are already made up of light industrial businesses, and the land reuse strategy identified these blocks for further light industrial use, which is compatible with the airport operations. And over the years, the city has received interest from neighbors seeking to buy adjacent city-owned parcels to expand their property or their businesses. So in advance of marketing these properties, the city is going to send out a letter to adjacent property owners and to provide disposal information and obtain interest from the neighboring property owners, and will continually to strive to be good neighbors and provide as much information to the community as possible. We really hope that these properties can grow existing businesses within the area or attract new businesses to this area. All disposals will comply with federal and city regulations, and for properties in the downtown redevelopment area state law. The sale price will be based on the appraised value, with buyers covering all closing costs, and the properties will be advertised on the open market. And the city will negotiate to secure the highest return, considering each buyer's use and overall benefit to the city. And then we have benefits to the aviation department. Revenue will be returned to aviation at the sale of the property. Buyers will acknowledge the property's proximity to the airport and agree to execute a navigation easement within the city, acknowledging any operational impacts such as noise of aircraft. And the transfer of title will include a deed restriction for non-residential use in accordance with the compatible land use for the airport. The methodology of offering these parcels to the public will start with grouping the parcels into logical groupings, as shown here by the orange boxes. Once grouped, appraisals will be ordered and determine the fair market value to be the listing price. And during this time, we will notify neighbors of the upcoming property offerings and obtain adjacent property owners' interests. And then next, we will be marketing the property for a minimum of 30 days. And lastly, we will evaluate the offers and return here to City Council for authority to dispose. And with that, I'll send it back to Chris.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, staff does recommend move approval to the full City Council for authorization to dispose of the identified properties, and of course, coming back to you on each project before its disposal. And with that, we'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments?
Comment.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you. As this also resides in District 8, this has been, as many of you know, the acquisition of these parcels have been a sore spot for our community for some time, and I think we are making right strides into bringing these, right now they're vacant and underutilized parcels, into more revitalization mode, and we're moving forward to what the community wanted to see. The land reuse strategy was created after many, many hours and input of community members. So I am excited to see that we are moving towards the steps to bringing new life into these parcels. So thank you to CED for your work and working with aviation to move this forward.
Would you like to make the motion to approve?
I would make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again for your presentation. Our next item is item 12, a development agreement with Ardex LLC. And for this, we will hear from Chris Mackey as well as Andon Keating from the Economic Development Department.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we are excited to be here with you today to talk about another project that continues to grow our downtown Phoenix area. With me here today, as you noticed, is Zandon Keating, Deputy Director over Community and Economic Development. And with your permission, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Zandon to walk you through the location of the property and staff's recommended proposed terms of the agreement. Mr. Keating?
Thank you, Chris. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the project site. It's actually made up of two separate properties. The first at 1 West Madison Street and the second at 10, both between 10 and 20 West Jackson Street. It's a little bit over 1 acre in size. Currently, there's 2 buildings on the site, one on the western edge of the Jackson side and then one on the Madison piece. Both of those buildings are currently vacant. And then there's a parking lot kind of in between in the L that is also underutilized. It's the purpose of it is to support the building there on the west, and obviously with that being vacant, the parking lot is also not being utilized. The building on the north is a historic building. The Office of Historic Preservation has found that it is an important building to be kept. It's actually was used by our courts for a number of years. Maricopa County Courts was in there and had some various uses, and recently vacated and sold that building. The other building is not historically eligible. It's been modified throughout the years. It has a different face on it. It has a lot of the openings, windows, and doors have been moved, and a number of alterations over the years, and no longer eligible as a historic structure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the developer that we're working with. We're working with a group out of Denver, Colorado, Aradex, as the development agreement. They're a nationwide developer that develops lots of different types of projects, office. They do some residential, they do some retail, some industrial space. So they're kind of across a broad spectrum of development sites. They're working with Lamar Johnson Collaborative as their architect and Ajante Design as their designer. Both groups who have done projects here in downtown Phoenix. And then they're working with 2 different general contractors on different aspects of the site. Clayco and Brinkman, they're both names that you're probably familiar with. They do a number of work here in downtown Phoenix as well. So the proposed business terms for the project, it is a 2-phased mixed-use project. The first, or one of the phases, the south phase along Jackson, is a 14-story multifamily residential building. It would include 262 rental residential units. Between the 2 phases, there's about 20,000 square feet of retail. That's made up of 13,700 square feet in the northern historic building that would be maintained and kept as a historic building. There's actually, there's some work that needs to be done to that building to bring it back to its historic look. Right now there's kind of a stone facade that was placed over the original historic facade, and that will be peeled back, and the original facade will be replaced. The bulk, or the remainder of that retail would be within the 14-story building on the south side. There's also a basement to the historic building, so there's an opportunity for some future commercial uses. They haven't quite figured out what to do with that yet, but in the future they hope to do something interesting with that space as well. The project also includes a little over 200 parking spaces that would be within a structure that's built into the tower on the south side. Of course, that preservation of the historic building. And with this, what we're working with the developer towards is a government property lease excise tax that would include 25 years of excise tax for the entire term. The project would not be eligible for abatement of that excise tax at any point. So some of the benefits, as you know, we look at the benefits, the public benefits that come out of a project like this as we're doing an evaluation of the project. So there's a $117 million investment in downtown Phoenix. Of course, that historic preservation of the property. The developer has recognized that there is a need for affordable housing within downtown Phoenix and the central city. So they've agreed to a donation to the Affordable Housing Trust account. And that donation would be equal to 100% of the taxes the city would have generated, because this is on the excise tax as opposed to being eligible for abatement. There's also significant work that they would do to the pedestrian circulation in the area. If you're familiar with this particular property, it is sandwiched between First Avenue and Central, and this is where First Avenue and Central go underneath the railroad tracks in Jackson Street. And there's very, very poor pedestrian connections in that area. It's very difficult if you're walking on First or Central to get to Jackson, and they will change all of that. They're going to create pathways as well as some additional public space to connect those streets and rebuild all of that infrastructure in that area. And then, of course, there's the increased tax revenue that will come from the project. There is some commercial leasing rental tax that comes from the commercial spaces. There's the construction sales tax that would be generated off the site. And then those future retail uses will generate some transaction privilege tax associated with those uses. I'm going to pass it back to Chris now to talk through staff's recommendation.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, staff does recommend move approval to the full City Council of development agreement and all other documents as necessary for the project at 1 West Madison. And with that, we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Oh, are you good? I apologize. Okay. Item 13. I don't know why we don't call this the Chris Mackey Committee.
Deputy City Manager Chan was teasing me about that earlier, so.
This is regarding authorization to enter into a development agreement for sale and development of city-owned parcels at 1016 North 2nd Street, and it is for discussion and possible action. And joining Chris is Jeff Stapleton and Gretchen Wolf.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for allowing us to remain here with you today. We are extremely excited to bring this project forward for your consideration. It is the remaining third parcel for all of the original Knipe House development that the city did have, and other two sites have already been disposed of, but particularly excited because Mr. Stapleton is back with us today. He is a very new father. His new baby was just born, and so excited to see him for the first time since his new baby has been born. And with that, this property that we'll discuss with you here today did go through a request for proposal process that the council did authorize. It is the property that is where the Sparkbox demonstration project did exist during the Super Bowl. I'm reminded it wasn't last year, it was year before last. Keep losing track of time. Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Stapleton to go through the project that has been recommended by the panel, and then Ms. Wolf will talk about the procurement steps that went into this. Mr. Stapleton?
Thank you, Chris. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. We wanted to start the presentation by getting the subcommittee situated on the location for this project that was subject to the procurement. The site sits mid-block on 2nd Street between Portland and Roosevelt, just north of Roosevelt, bordered by a public alley to the west. The site is not particularly large. It's about 19,000 square feet, just under half an acre, and it has downtown code zoning. A little more background on the site. I know Chris touched on a previous procurement. Ownership of this site actually goes all the way back to 2004. There was a development proposal to bring mixed-use development to this location. That was through a development agreement with the city. The developer did not perform, and the city was able to take title to the site as collateral. So that's how the city originally became the owner of this location. There was a subsequent procurement back in 2017. But then after that had not been successful, we did issue another procurement in 2023 to bring mixed-use development to this site and looking at the possibility of getting affordable workforce housing units as well if residential were proposed. With that, I'll turn it over to Special Projects Administrator Gretchen Wolf, who will cover details on the procurement that was issued at this location.
Thank you. Madam Chair, subcommittee members. So we issued the RFP in 2023, and when we did so, we notified more than 900 registered vendors with the city's notification list, and we advertised this on the city's website with the websites of the Urban Land Institute, the National Association for Industrial and Office Parks. We also advertised with the Arizona Business Gazette, Arizona Informant, and Prensa Arizona. As of the proposal deadline, only one proposal was received. So when we only have one proposal, we don't use a panel. We verify that the proposer meets the minimum qualifications. We recommend to the director that we move forward with negotiations, and in this case, Director Mackey did agree with that, and Jeff is going to tell you about this very exciting project.
Thanks, Gretchen. That responsive proposer was Penrose Development. Penrose is a nationally recognized, accomplished builder of affordable housing. Joining us on the meeting virtually is Shannon Cox-Baker, Vice President with Penrose. Penrose has a deep portfolio. There you see some of the stats there, $5 billion of project value throughout the country. There you see on the left a recently completed development of theirs, about similar scale of what you'll see later in the presentation to what is going to be constructed on 2nd Street. And there you see some art incorporated into the design of the building. And this is in Denver, in their Rhino Arts North District, kind of a similar neighborhood to Roosevelt Row. So I think this is indicative of the quality that we can expect to see from Penrose at their development on 2nd Street. And getting to the details of that proposed project, there you see kind of the site layout there on the right, fronting 2nd Street. This proposed project is 5 stories in height. It does have an active use of retail space facing 2nd Street with parking behind the retail space. And there you see a rendering of the development looking southwest across 2nd Street, an amenity deck on the 2nd floor above the retail space. It is 100% affordable housing made available to qualifying households at 60% of the area median income. And then that parking that is on level 1 is 32 spaces for the residents at the development. The city and Penrose have negotiated the following business terms. The purchase price for the site is $1.5 million. The parties have 6 months to enter into the development agreement. There will be 36 months for Penrose to start construction on the site. That is a little bit longer than what we normally provide. The reason why is to provide 2 opportunities for Penrose to apply for tax credits with the Arizona Department of Housing. They will apply in early 2026. If they are not a part of the qualified allocation plan through ADO, they can then apply again in early 2027. And then when they do complete the project, there will be a 40-year deed restriction encumbered on the property, restricting it to an affordable housing use. This project was presented to a variety of community groups back in February, including the Hants Park Conservancy, the Downtown Voices Coalition, the Central City Village, the Evans Churchill Community Association, and lastly, the Phoenix Community Alliance. And with that, I'll turn it back to Chris for the staff recommendation.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I think one of the important things to note from Mr. Stapleton's work with the community, even pre the RFP, was the community, the surrounding downtown community, was very interested in affordable housing. So this was something that they were very excited about. And as we have gone back out to the community meetings to share the development with them, they remain excited that we're able to bring affordable housing, should council choose to move forward with this, more affordable housing into Roosevelt Row. So Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, staff does recommend approval, move approval to the full city council for the Penrose Project LLC for the development of our property at 1016 North 2nd Street. And with that, we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments?
Other than excited to see affordable housing in downtown.
And Madam Chair, just
Councilwoman
Yeah.
Stark?
I wanted to say the same thing. I am so excited to see affordable housing in the downtown. I'm excited to approve this. I know it's not in my district, so I'll let Councilwoman make the motion, but very exciting.
Thank you, Councilwoman Starks. It's technically in my district, but we share a lot of the same community organizations. So like I was mentioned, I'm very excited to see affordable housing come into the downtown area. We know that's one of the requests that we repeatedly hear from our community. So I'm excited to move for the approval of item number 13.
And a second, please.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. So yay to some more affordable housing in the city of Phoenix, especially in downtown. Thank you all for being with us today. And then I'm going to go back to David Benton to remind us about our rules for public comment.
Certainly, Madam Chair. For citizen comment, during citizen comment, members of the public may address the subcommittee for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The open meeting law permits the subcommittee members to listen to comments, but prohibits members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Benton, thank you very much. Okay, the first person is Mandy. Is she on virtually? Okay, Mandy, can you hear us okay?
I can, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Hi, so as you know, my name is Mandy. I am a tenant in the Phoenix metro area. I'm a member of Phoenix DSA and a supporter of the Take Back Our Homes campaign. And I'm here today to urge you to get a right to counsel ordinance up for discussion in this subcommittee at the upcoming April 9th meeting. As you probably already know, evictions are at an all-time high. Just last year, there were 87,000 eviction filings in Maricopa County, and we're seeing COVID level numbers here. If you're serious about addressing homelessness, one of the best things you can do is to help prevent evictions. And it is especially important that we do so as we approach the hottest time of year, when we see senseless, preventable deaths due to the extreme heat in the city. Instead of criminalizing poverty and homelessness, I want to see our tax dollars go to legal aid for tenants and community services, legal representation for tenants, and increased investments in public and affordable housing. We know this current presidential administration isn't going to come address the needs of the working class folks, so it's more important than ever that local governments, like folks in this subcommittee, step up and lead the way to prevent our neighbors from losing their homes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Juniper Bradford.
Hi, I actually am coming up here to just echo what Mandy just said too. I'm recently unstably sheltered myself, and I don't mean to come up here and have my heart bleed all over the podium, but I've got my bearings a little bit better and some words to put to this experience. So I realize that pulling collective dreams into reality are an arduous and much slower than our ability to conceptualize them, but I was taught by a wonderful mentor in regards to goal achievement to visualize the end result and work myself backwards in my imagination through each subsequent milestone that brought that dream into a tangible reality. And it's been one of the most helpful tools in assessing my own alignment to my goals with my current actions. I've been watching as my world changes around me and being in purpose with my own movements, making adjustments and impact where I can with the tools that I have. I take these moments to assess whether what I'm seeing happen in the world, in the nation, in this state, in this city, in my communities, and in my interpersonal relationship lines up with the vision I see of a harmonious future, and the answer is mostly. Mostly it does. Despite all of the terror and oppression and imposition we experience from a resistance system and the violent throes of death, the structures upon which to build something better that would even be inclusive of those who act in opposition to ushering in this better future are already here and as easy for me to spot as it is for me to see its saboteurs. But I think that there's something that we could do right now at this turning point, and I'd like a little more space to speak to that than a 2-minute public comment. It's going to involve some backtracking and undoing and ignoring any ignorance or fear-mongering rooted in not wishing to be found out that entitles itself to a voice. Ultimately, the decisions that we make together, and I will adapt to the eventual circumstances accordingly. But there's a strategic opportunity at this juncture that poses to free a bunch of suppressed energy that has the power to create a world that works for everyone. I think that having a subcommittee that ties in housing and economic is the problem is like right there in that we're not able to consider in our development what's happening with our houseless neighbors and their barrier to getting their survival needs met is in that ability to access economic, like they can't get a hold of it, and that's required for them to meet their survival needs. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Councilman. Eric Mahaffey.
Hi, I'm Eric Mahaffey. I've been involved with landlord-tenant issues since about 2 years ago when I first became a tenant after being a homeowner. And I can tell you that right to counsel is huge on many levels. We've already heard the statistics from a previous speaker, so I won't go over that with you because I want to get right to the topics I've already been through 3 evictions in the last 2 years. Most of them have been retaliatory because I've been working with Spencer Self and Planning and Development to try to bring to bear our codes that are here that the landlords are not attending to. In that case, we go to your city courts. The tenants don't have a voice in them. And the only prosecutor is the inspector that inspected the home. He's not trained to be a lawyer, he's trained to be an inspector. Well, they miss some of the fine nuances of the law because the landlords come in with lawyers. Same thing is happening in eviction courts. 1% of the people going to eviction get legal representation. Luckily, in one of my 3 evictions that I had to beat off, I had the wherewithal to be able to hire a lawyer, and that at least brought the discussion to negotiations instead of just a cut and dry eviction. If these people don't have access to counsel, it's pretty much a shoo-in. Evicted, boom. You don't even show up. It's a 30-second event. I showed up at least. It took 3 hearings to beat off the last eviction. And luckily, my story moved the judge so much that he did find a technicality in their filing that got him to throw it out. Had I had a lawyer there, I probably would have got it thrown out on the merits of my arguments, but because I didn't have all the proper legalese in the forms, all of my arguments had to get thrown out because they weren't legal. We need the representation. That's happened to me 3 times. If I'd have had lawyers all 3 times that knew the ARLTA inside and out and could argue our case, we would have gotten a lot further. We would have spent a lot less time. And in the general grand scope of the big picture, all people who are getting evicted, it would reduce the number of evictions, the number of homelessness, because once you get evicted, you can't get rental again. You got to go live with a family member. You don't have a family member, you're in your car. The tenants are getting messed up, and they need that representation. They need it going into NSD court.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah.
Pamela Silvis, and followed by Pamela will be Ruth, and then Darren.
Hello, council members and vice mayor. My name is Pamela Silvas. I'm a retired registered nurse from here in Phoenix, Arizona. I am here to urge you to put patient right to counsel on the April 9 agenda. Right to counsel is needed because I had a 80-year-old cousin who was in an apartment, and she was 3 months from the end of her lease, and they told her that they were going to be increasing her rent. She had a rather serious automobile accident that was not her fault, and she ended up in the hospital. And because she was 1 day or 2 late trying to get someone else to pay for her rent, they evicted her. They did not pay her back any of her initial fees or the extra money that you have to pay when you get an apartment, and she ended up losing that apartment and still in the hospital. So most of the family had to move her things, but she lost it, and now they had 3 months. The next tenant ended up paying the extra money. It was like $500. They went from $1,000 to $1,500. We had no legal recourse. We didn't have money for attorneys. She needed someone to help her. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have Ruth, and then Darren, and then Evelyn Castillo.
That one. Hello, my name is Ruth Contagion, and I'm pleased to be here with this organization. And obviously, our goal today is get the right to counsel on the agenda for April 9th. So I'm going to just start with that. I'm the new face of evictions right here. I've been in business of finance. I have a insurance business that I've been in for 35 years with Aflac, and I've been a regional director. I also own Safety Around Water, which is an LLC here that I work with the City of Phoenix and on child drownings. I moved in because I was displaced over the COVID issue, like many, many people. I moved into a place in Scottsdale. Actually, it was owned by an individual, but it was also run by a very, let's just call them maybe harsh, property management company. So we all know we've got about 1/3 of our properties here that aren't even owned by individuals. Basically, it took them 2 months to get the cockroaches under control, the 14 outlets so I could actually plug in my computer, my TV, my any appliances. I had 15, no less than 15 vendors come in 2 months. I had to leave my property for cockroach issues, and that went on for 2 months. And I'll tell you what, that really, really impacted my life because I've never been a renter. I'm from Canada. I've been here for 40 years. And when I moved here, I heard about this slumlord thing, and I always felt really terrible. I never was impacted by that. I've been lucky enough to be a homeowner in some of the best areas of this state. But I'll tell you what, this is degrading, it's humiliating, and something has to be done because the Landlord-Tenant Act means nothing in our courts. And I'll tell you what, it means nothing in our courts today, last year, and the year before, because my case started in August of 2022 and ended last month. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We have Darren, and then Evelyn, and then Andrea.
Good morning. My name is Darren Jezik. I'm with the Phoenix campaign of Take Back Our Homes. We are concerned that time is running out to get the right to counsel ordinance passed in the city of Phoenix before extreme heat hits the valley and eviction crisis in our communities are already experiencing becomes a humanitarian crisis. When more of our neighbors are sent out into the streets to become victims of preventable heat-related deaths, we are here to urge this committee to add right to counsel ordinance discussions subcommittee meeting on April 9th. The Take Back Our Homes campaign has spent the past year talking to City Council and community about the eviction crisis and the importance of legal representation for tenants. You know about right to counsel, and if you don't, we most likely have an upcoming meeting scheduled with you to talk about it. Our goal is for Phoenix City Council to pass an ordinance enacting right to counsel and ensure that it's properly funded. Last year, you gave the Phoenix Police Department an extra $27 million for the hell of it. Hold on, I lost that. You could have funded us, but you didn't. And people were being evicted and thrown out into the streets. We see where your priorities are. In March of 22, Phoenix Police were rated #1 in the use of deadly force compared to the top 10 populous departments, and you continue to reward them with more money while people lose their homes. When are you going to support the people who really need support? We need this right to counsel. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Evelyn?
Hello, Council. My name is, can you hear me? Oh, there we go. I'm the Phoenix Field Organizer for the Take Back Our Homes campaign. I've stood up here several times before and shared my story with you all. But I'm here today alongside 11 other community members because we need a right to counsel ordinance put up for discussion at the April 9th meeting. The problem right now are that evictions are at an all-time high, and the city needs to allocate more money and resources to prevent evictions and increase money for legal representation for tenants in evictions, redirect new tax dollars to legal aid and community services, and increase investments going to public housing and affordable housing. As a community organizer, I work with Phoenix residents firsthand every day and hear the exact housing struggles they face. A constant pattern we see is wrongful evictions being the key issue for renters. Those closest to the problem hold the solutions, and that is why we know that the solution is a right to counsel, because it will keep more tenants in their homes, reduce eviction filings and disruptive displacement, and save public money. Right to counsel programs have been proven to reduce eviction filings and lessen debt and fines in our court for tenants. The data is clear. Evictions are at an all-time high. There is a housing and homelessness crisis. There is a cost-benefit analysis study nearing release that will eliminate any doubt that right to counsel will benefit the entire city. We conducted a survey of nearly 500 residents and released a report detailing the suffering that evictions are causing to our neighbors. The next step in the process to pass right to counsel is to get it on an agenda on April 9th. So we'll be seeing y'all then as well, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Andrea Luna Cervantes, so sorry.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and subcommittee members. My name is Andrea Luna Cervantes, and I am here with my colleagues and community members from the Take Back Our Homes campaign. The past year, as you've heard from folks, we've had conversations and educated the community around eviction crisis and the urgent need for the right to counsel ordinance in Phoenix. We've been speaking to thousands of people, educating hundreds of people, including community and organizational partners. We actually just had a tenant leadership training this weekend where we trained over 30 renters here in Phoenix. And then 2 weeks before that, we had a housing justice event amplifying the impacted members in our community where we had over 100 people attend. Point being, we've been overwhelmingly putting the work in ensuring people are educated about the right to counsel and see the need. And truly, time is running out. As summer approaches, the eviction crisis just threatens us to become this is a humanitarian emergency. With more of our neighbors at risk of preventable heat-related deaths, we can't afford delays or any inaction. Your offices, specifically Council Members Hodge Washington, Robinson, and Vice Mayor O'Brien, have been engaged and willing to work with us, and we appreciate that. But now we need more than conversations. We need leadership. Some council members refuse to acknowledge the crisis, but you have the power to move this forward. And I urge you to add right to counsel to the April 9th agenda and make sure it gets passed. We don't have time to wait, and the summer is near. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Sebastian Del Portillo.
Hello, good morning, council members and vice mayor. Let me pull up my notes. So my name is Sebastian Del Portillo. I'm the campaign manager for Take Back Our Homes. You all know me, and I want to appreciate, District 1, District 8, District 6 have been in constant conversation with us, and have really gotten educated on why right to counsel is not only viable approach, but an evidence-based approach that will keep people in their homes and also save the city a lot of money. I also want to thank everyone that showed up to speak today. Eric and his wife, Juniper, Mandy, Evelyn, Pam, Ruth, Catherine, Darren, Astrid, and I think every time that folks come up and share their stories, right? And I keep hearing new and new stories every single day of how evictions are impacting like our working class people in the city. We have to do something. And that's why we're calling on the committee to, bring up right to counsel ordinance for discussion on the April 9th meeting. The summer is coming up. I think I heard this morning that we broke a March record for heat. We know it's gonna be incredibly hot. It barely rained. That means it's gonna be even more hot. And people are going to die this year on the street and in their homes because of the heat. And so I think the people of Phoenix are really waiting for your leadership and waiting for the city to act in all the ways that it can. The project, the affordable housing project that got passed just now, fantastic, awesome. We need so much more of that. But we also need to have the preventative measures and protections for tenants so that folks can't be evicted so easily and that people aren't bullied. We were out in neighborhoods in District 3 this weekend, talking to people living in trailers. Several folks in the community told me they get bullied by their landlords, but they don't feel like they have a recourse to really put up a fight. So they don't, and they stay quiet and they live through those things in silence. And so I think it also shows why our organizing is so important, and also the energy behind the organizing. We have a very multiracial, multi-generational group of folks. We just did a tenant leadership training this weekend. Over 30 people showed up and committed to the 2-day intensive to organize for housing justice. And so we're going to keep organizing. We're going to keep growing the demand for protections for tenants. And I think this is one of the solutions that's right at our disposal right now, and we have the money for it. It really seems like. So I want to thank y'all for your time, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Catherine Branch, followed by Michelle Ashton. Sorry.
Hello. My name is Catherine Branch, and I'm here with Take Back Our Homes. I'm here with the organizations. We're asking for help for people not to be evicted out of their homes. I'm a 14-year cancer survivor, single parent here in the desert in the middle of the heat. And I've been evicted so many times I can't even, well, not evicted, because once you get evicted, then it's hard to get another home. So I have had to fight so many battles just to keep a roof over my head, my son's head. He is now 30, my son. And it was really important, no matter what I had to do, to be able to make sure that he was well taken care of. I had no legal attorneys. I had no representative. I had no community to turn to. Right now, I have a situation at the Attorney General's office regarding the owners of some complexes, more than one here in Arizona, who's been using that real page algorithm and hiking up the rent. In my own personal apartment complex, it scares me because I don't know where these people have gone. But I've only been there maybe 3 months. But within that 3 months, I've seen at least 10 to 15 homes that are now empty. I don't know what the nature of their situation was, but I know that me personally, I had to fight back against some fees at the same apartment complex that they just seem to just create and add. And there's really no way to fight back to keep them from doing this to us people as a whole. I'm a fighter, so if I see a situation, I will fight, but a lot of people can't do that. We need your support. The heat is going to be here. I've been out helping the homeless. I'm 14 years in recovery, and I know what it's like to face death. They're facing death every day out there on the streets. I do whatever I can. I have no money. I have no resources. But these people, their needs are not being met on the streets. So we need to stop the bleeding. The bleeding is people becoming homeless in the first beginning. We need to plug that hole up. We need... Oh,
thank you for your testimony, ma'am.
Thank you.
Our final speaker today will be Michelle Ashton.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us to speak on this matter. I'm here today as a member of an agency who assists elders with domestic violence and elder abuse who are homeless, as well as a community member with the Take Back Our Homes Committee. I'm here to say why passing right to counsel would benefit the city of Phoenix. You have a homeless crisis, as you know, and solving this issue is definitely needs a multifaceted approach. The reason your constituents become homeless is also multifaceted. Passing a right to counsel ordinance not only will decrease the number of Phoenix residents who will become homeless today moving forward, it will also shed light on just how unfair we as a society misjudge and furthermore misfund the homeless citizens in this country. Members of the council, you have a big dilemma. The Arizona heat-related deaths soon to be coming to this state again. Passing the right to counsel will decrease the amount of Phoenix residents who will die this coming summer. This is not a theory, but an absolute fact. Residents cannot die from the scorching elements of our unrelentless summers if they continue to remain sheltered in their homes. There's other benefits that would also be good for the city of Phoenix, and that would be to decrease the resources spent on the city of Phoenix police with their interactions with homeless populations rather than focusing on serious crimes in the city. We spend money on drug abuse rehabilitation and drug-induced mental health services that we can see a decrease in the cost if we continue to keep the residents housed. There's also cost and time spent trying to solve the housing crisis that you guys have been trying to do for quite some time now. Creating more housing does not necessarily rehouse all those individuals that are evicted. How could it when landlords will not rent to individuals with an eviction record? So many of the clients that I work with are in transitional housing right now, but there is not really a hope that I have in finding any housing, not in the last few years, not ever since COVID, when evictions have just gone crazy. And I ask, where is an individual going to get money to hire a lawyer if they can't even pay their rent? It's certain that they will be evicted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your for everybody's very important testimony, and thank you to all of the work you have done. And Councilwoman Hodge Washington, we do have eviction service available. So, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for the opportunity. I do think it's important for us to schedule an update on the eviction legal services program for an agenda as soon as appropriate.
Yes, ma'am. All right. With that, we are adjourned.
Tallest buildings in downtown Phoenix 65 years ago are still standing and thriving. Those include the security building,